Welcome to Your Body Talks with Jessy Morrison and Dianne Ojar. Thank you for joining us today. And you know what? I want to say welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for taking your time to come out and sit with us. We're going to have some fun. You're going to find out who Jessy is. And yes, you're going to find out who little me is. But you know what? I believe the fun is more in Jessy. I kid you not. And I'll tell you why. Jessy is someone, let me just tell a little bit about how I know Jessy. I met Jessy in 2012. We both were doing our NLP, Master Practitioner course. We spent a few months together. We had fun together. And we grew as sisters. We really had that connection. And I hope Jessy would agree to it. And she's shaking her head saying, yes, that is true. However, we all have our lives, but we always did keep in touch from time to time, and I've admired her so much over the waves, over the social media, over the ocean, because from Toronto to Barrie seems like that's a far ocean to swim, and I can't swim, guys. This is what it is. But I'm telling you, this woman is fascinating. She has so much to share, and she actually came up with soul profile readings and Akashic clearings. And that even fascinated me more. But what even fascinated me even more is on my birthday recently, she did a reading. Now, folks, listen to this. It's nothing than what I expected. Really and truly, she said to me to go to bed. Well, when I went to bed, she said, well, you didn't really have to go to sleep. But normally I sleep very late. But that night, I actually went to bed. While I was sleeping, she was reading my body for about 3 hours. She sent me a recording and she also sent me a report. And that fascinated me more. Some of it I didn't understand, and some of it sort of confirmed some things I knew. And of course, my curious mind, which she would tell you about my curious mind, that how I always wanted to be logical and I wanted to justify, and I think she's going to use different words. And I hope you would find a lot of interest in Jessy as I actually do, and I love her. But let me tell a little bit about myself. My name is Dianne Ojar, and of course, I am also a master practitioner in NLP hypnotherapy. I'm also a Tao hands practitioner, as well as a Tao Da hands practitioner. And as we go along, you get to know a little bit about me. But please, for the moment, just help me welcome Jessy Morrison. Welcome, Jessy.
Thank you.
Boy, was that an introduction, eh?
Yeah, I don't know if I can live up to that or not. It's so interesting for me that you say that you don't usually sleep well, and that night you went to sleep. I've had people who come and visit my healing room here, and we'll go into their Akashic records, and then they won't be able to wake up after their session. I had one woman who actually stayed all night asleep on the massage table. And I kept checking on her, thinking, "What have I done?" In the
I
morning,
was
she woke
tired,
up and she
Jessy.
was
Jessy,
refreshed.
I was tired. That day I really I needed to sleep. So if somebody said to me go and sleep, for some reason I think that day it caught me probably in a good night. But folks, it's all about Jessy. So on with the show.
Well, it's funny that we live in a society that we take pleasure in not sleeping, when sleeping is how our body actually recharges. We seem to think that we get some sort of a medal for, I don't know, bravery or productivity or something if we exhaust ourselves, and we've got that backwards.
I don't yeah, we really have that backwards because I haven't gotten any rewards about nothing. I just get a lot of, dark circles and, bags and just feel more exhausted than anything else. But then again, my body's going through a lot of purification.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So
That's
tell us a
good.
little bit about yourself, Jess.
About me. Oh, little
Yeah,
old me.
where did it start? This show right now, this is our season premiere. This
All
show
right.
is about who Jessy and Dianne is, what we do.
Well, I'm still a work in progress. I don't know who I am yet. I'm still uncovering all that. My clients would tell me that, or say to you that I am their body whisperer or their GPS. Um, but I'm not anybody's personal guidance system. I really just help people tune in and pay attention to the visceral and somatic reactions they're going to, because our society tends to label them. If you have some thick, I like to say thick or heavy sensations, people say, oh, you're feeling pain. If you're feeling fluttering your chest, they'll call it anxiety. If you feel a pulsing in your heart, people get all upset and say, oh my gosh, am I having a heart problem? Or if you hear rumbling in your tummy, they say that it's indigestion. We've been taught that every sensation our body feels is a symptom, and that's not the truth. Every sensation is simply a sensation. When we're alive, we're supposed to feel everything. When we're dead, well, I imagine that we don't feel so much because the energy isn't moving through our body anymore. And the same with reading your soul profiles or Akashic records. It doesn't come up for all of my clients as something I have to do. It did come up last week. A woman who is now taking my 6-month mentoring has fibromyalgia and has, she came like everything on my intake form was checked off as she is in so much pain. And what it came up for me is that I had to check in with her soul and see what was going on. It turned out she had what I call a monosoul. She had 3 souls or 3 energies in her body at once, taking turns every 7 years, and they were causing her pain. And it's like having 3 conversations arguing in your head all the time. She didn't have 3 personalities, but there's a part of her that wants to progress and be there with her career and take care of her family. And there's another part that says, no, you have to take care of you. And it's there for protection, but it's sabotaging her. And the third one seemed to be, well, that one we got rid of really easy. It was just mean and dark and heavy and caused a lot of hip pain. But we all are energy, and there are many different types of energy. I even call emotions entities, but most people seem to think of entities as being disembodied humans or ghosts or demons or something like that. And it's just, to me, an entity is anything that is not of our body. And I got involved in that at a very, very young age because I had a father who, when he lost his temper, his brown eyes would turn green, and I literally saw his energy like steam coming out of his ears, but it wasn't his. So I could write a horror movie about what that man went through in his childhood and what overlapped into mine. But we're fascinating. And there's what I think people need to know is there's nothing wrong with them. They're not broken. They don't
Yes.
need fixing.
Oh,
They just
geez.
need to understand that these sensations are guiding them, that these sensations are telling them when they're closer to the higher self or further away.
I love that.
Um,
I love how you
yeah.
say that because one of the things over the years, you know, for me, it was not knowing. I know I was different, but not knowing. Well, first of all, I'm from Trinidad, okay, so I'm not sure who I'm going to speak to. I grew up in this is not about religion, everyone. Just remember that as a disclaimer. We respect your beliefs and your faith. But I grew up as a Presbyterian, so that's black and white. But I grew up with our neighbors were Muslim, Hindus, Christians, and I went to a school when I was 5 years old, a Catholic school. And then I went to a convent. No, I didn't stay in the convent. I didn't live in there. But the point is, I grew up very Catholic to a certain degree, and Presbyterian, and Hindu, and Muslim. So I had everything in me,
Mhm.
obviously. But who am I going to talk to? You can't speak to your parents. And today I was having this conversation with someone, just and I thought, you know what, my mother, because I'm very much like my mother to a certain degree, and I was thinking, and I never thought about it before, because there are 4 spiritual channels, and the main one is the direct knowing channel, which I seem to have open for quite a long time. I just didn't know. And I was thinking about my mom, but unfortunately, they were not educated to know these things because of culture and society. So we have to take everything, doesn't matter how dark it is, or how negative it is, or what you believe is negative, or whatever words you want to describe it, and sit back and think, why is this happening? There's got to be something here. And it's a conversation to have for someone like us. And I just want to also mention, correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse's the expert in this conversation. This is not about past life regression.
No, not at all.
So maybe we should explain what that is because most people always bring up that terminology and think it's always about when we go back. and revisit or reprogram ourselves, it's all about past life regression. So maybe you should give them a simplified definition of what that is. So let's just clear all these different myths here right and now. Okay?
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure I can do that because I don't do past life regressions with my clients. I take them to, well, you're familiar with timeline therapy.
Mm-hmm.
We take them energetically through to a time when there was a crisis or a trauma and ask their unconscious mind and their superconscious mind what they could have learned in that traumatic event. Like there was a reason that your soul put that story there for you to grow through, and where the growth was halted and you just absorbed the trauma. Now that goes for generational stuff as well. Whereas in past life regression, I think they actually hypnotize you and bring up a story from the past. I don't know what they do with it, but the reason I don't do past life regressions is because I've had clients come in here who've had many past life regressions, and those old stories are now, instead of their future, those stories are there, and their conscious mind is trying to analyze how it gives them more ammunition of what's how I'm broken, what's wrong
Yeah.
with me.
Uh,
And instead of giving them tools to repair it or move through it or grow through it, they kind of get stuck. It's like putting a TV set in front of your mind. The mind is entertained by this. And I don't know how many people, when they go through past life regression, actually get a solution from that. When I do the soul profile, I'm coming, and there are so many different ways of reading the Akasha as well. What I learned was to ask what are the personality traits that you have brought into this lifetime that are benefits to you, that are your super tools, are, and then I ask, well, what is stopping you from using your superpowers here? Why are
mm-hmm.
you not accessing that? And it may say that, on the planet that you were from, you were not acclimatized to Earth's heavy gravity. I get so many people who are not comfortable in Earth's heavy specific gravity. When I dive in a little bit deeper and I ask, well, what do you mean specific gravity? And they're talking about, well, this energy of shame or this energy of guilt and insecurity or this feeling of I can't do things and struggle or feeling lost. And it's like, oh, that emotional frequency stuff that we roller coaster ride on quite often until we become observers. And a lot of the time, it's because as infants, we're born into a family dynamic, depending on what your parents are going through. You lower your or dim your light, is a way of putting it, trying to match your parents' frequency so that you fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And like we don't even know we're doing that. A lot of times what I get from my clients is that we are born to heal our mother or heal our father. And I don't mean heal in that they're broken. I mean to help show them that there is a different way of thinking, a different way of living their life. And of course, then we get labeled as black sheep because we're not thinking the way our parents
Jesse,
think.
were you a black sheep? Well, here's the thing. Before we go to black sheep, this is my interpretation of past life regression. As you mentioned, our timeline therapy, where we go back, we acknowledge, because you can't forget the memory, but we acknowledge and we take an event to help us understand what's going on. But as far as I understand for past life regression is they actually take you through, and forgive me, anyone if I'm wrong, please forgive me and correct me. They let you live through the trauma again or revisit it. Now, what I do, I'm also the creator and founder of The Elephant in the Room, which really was a little bit of this, a little bit of that I put together. It just happened. I used to do for like years. I had no idea I was actually doing something so powerful, but it's actually gone to a place where we actually look at the biggest issue that's going on with you right now, the elephant in the
Mm-hmm.
room, which is the one. You've heard this before. What's your greatest fear? And we start from there and we go in and go in, and you're very comfortable, very relaxed. But it's usually something that's, people suppress. Now, for when we go to our timeline therapy, we do visit maybe past lives when your mother's womb and so forth. But with the elephant in the room, it's usually something from your childhood. It could be a teenager as well. But we just acknowledge it. I don't let them revisit it. They acknowledge it, and sometimes they just do it themselves with a little bit of guidance and question. It's all about the emotion and the state of mind. So we just wanted to make sure and clear that this we're not going to have anybody go back to that incident. it will help you get through, but that's not
Yeah, I
why
always
we're
say
here.
to my clients, this isn't Hollywood. You're probably not going to see a movie, but you may feel and notice because you're going in as an observer. What are the observations that you have right now?
Yeah.
And the other thing I like to say too is, okay, so what energy are you noticing right now? And people say, oh, there's fear. There's so much fear. And they start going, and I say, well, lift up over the fear. It's not, is it your fear? And they go, oh, no, it's not. And I'm like, well, great. Then just look at it. Because what the body does is it starts to make the neuropeptides and the histamines and the different steroids and the cortisol and all these things because your body is in remembrance and reliving an emotion. We don't want them to relive anything. We want them to look at it and go, oh, that's interesting, and then move through it.
Well, Jesse,
So,
before we go further, let's take a step back and for those people who are just joining us on Your Body Talks with Jesse and Deanne, let's give a little bit of definition what some of those terminology means and how you
oh,
use
they're
it in
just
perspective.
hormones within the body.
Right. So I'm just saying the words that some people may not know what it means, but just to simply put, we want to make this as simplified as possible for people, right? So to understand there's
hmm
certain things, and you're right, there's
Well,
certain things in your body that your body, supposed to excrete or produce or triggers, whatever you want to call it. We're not the doctors, but you certainly can go and Google it. That's one thing you certainly can do. Because you know why? Here's the thing why it's just so much you can teach someone. But when someone goes out and researches themselves, like, when I was reading this and listening to it to have a better understanding, it's for us to understand ourselves, right? If somebody says something
hmm
to me, I will go and look up the meaning of it and say, oh, okay, what does that mean? Even if it's a fruit or something like durian, I was like, what's durian? Well, it's a stinky fruit, but apparently it tastes amazing, but it's still stinky and soft.
yeah,
Um,
it's so sweet. My
I
goodness,
heard
it's
I
too
people
sweet for
love
me.
it, and somebody told me you can one of them is like whatever, and I was like, what? The first one, but I was told I have to taste it. I was like, okay, I will do that at some point. But I hear the cookies are really great. But the point of that story is, you go out when you hear something and you're not sure. Go out and look it up. Be
And
educated.
when you do look it up, though, there is so much misinformation out
Hmm.
there. Look it up and notice how your body feels as you're reading that information. If it's feeling heavy and dark or painful, it's not aligning with what your truth is. If it's feeling light and you're going, oh, yeah, oh my God, this makes sense, yes, that heightened feeling is then I would follow that line of thinking and noticing what's there. I think the body is the best way of your mind will try and absorb everything. Your body will tell you what's true for your soul and your journey. It'll just get very excited and very happy.
Well, talking about happy, I'm just looking at here the fact that you said, and I quote this what you said. This was in my reading. You're not going to find out about my reading, but I'm going to pull out certain things from my reading. If you're not enjoying life, then it's time to take a new direction. Earth is your newest playground. We actually enjoy playing in a 3D polarity, emotions, and energetic frequencies. So every moment of every day, find what inspires you to play and laugh and be. When you find yourself sinking into heaviness, ask the rhetorical question, would it be nice if? And realign to choose thoughts and desires that makes you feel lighter, courageous, hopeful, enthusiastic. You're like an orchestra playing your music, and others would dance and sing with you. Beautifully said,
Did
Jesse.
I say that? Oh my
Yes, you
goodness.
did. Yes, you did. I don't know what I came from, but here's the thing: you were not saying it. It was your body.
Well, yeah, we have the ability to tune into so many different energy fields. And I think on Earth right now, and for the last, I don't know how many hundreds of years, what we've been tuning into are the heavy frequencies below anger, below fear. Our society tends to lock us into this energy of fear, and it becomes an addiction. We think that if we worry about 1,000 different scenarios, we're actually doing something productive, and we're not. If we're worrying about a person, we're going to be lowering their life force energy, and we are using up our own. So I have, I think did I show it to you? Maybe I didn't. I had an artist draw up this rainbow of various different emotions. I think there's 25 of them or so. And so that people can use that as a gauge to see where they are in the moment.
No, you
And
didn't.
so many, I didn't. Oh, I'll have
No,
to
you
send you a copy of
didn't.
that.
Hello,
And our listeners
everyone.
can just ask me.
Jessy did not share that with me.
Well, anything that feels heavy contracts our energy. It shuts down our intuition and it puts us into survival mode. So our ancestors have been in survival mode for a long, long, long time. We live in a society right now. We've got hot showers, we've got electric stoves, gas stoves, refrigerators. I mean, refrigerators weren't invented until the 1950s. Isn't that crazy? I think that our youth thinks they've been here forever, but no, people. My grandmother would go to the store and get a big chunk of ice and put it in a lead box, and that was the refrigerator. And you couldn't put a quart of milk or anything with it. I think they put butter and cheese in it, maybe, or the meat, so it wouldn't go bad. So we haven't always had these luxuries that we take for granted. I mean, electricity hasn't even been around a long time. I think in the 1940s, people had one light bulb, if they had electricity, in the center of the ceiling. And if they were rich enough to have a washing machine, they would take the light bulb out and take the wiring from the washing machine and put it in the ceiling and do their laundry in the dark. And then when it was over, they would switch it. So we have
Where was
so many
that, Jessy?
luxuries.
That was
Canada,
that was in Canada?
yeah.
Okay, before my time, I'll tell you that much. But you know what? Here's the thing. Um, People have to be comfortable and adjust to the times, and there's no question about that, right? And
Mhm.
there's so many things happening with survival at that time. When we had the wars and so forth. I know my parents grew up in Trinidad in World War II. Yes, they were born already. So, rations and everything was it wasn't an easy life for them. We have it too
No,
comfortable. We too comfortable we have it.
I don't know if it's too comfortable, but I think people don't appreciate the comforts enough.
Well,
They're taking them for granted.
we sit back and we get so we feel like and don't get me wrong, this is not for everyone, but many people feel like they're entitled because the generation now coming in comes in with everything that they want, sorry. And it's a little bit different. I remember when my kids were young, one of my paycheck was going straight to daycare and so forth, and you had to figure this out and figure this out. Now everything is so much accessible for everyone. So sometimes you get a little lazy. Why? Because the kids are texting their parents or texting each other in the same house next door to the room, and we've lost a lot of family values there as well, right? Definitely,
That's
we've
an
lost.
interesting perspective because I see it very differently. I
Hmm.
look at the younger generations and I don't see them as entitled. Their souls chose this time to come into the planet, and they don't fall for the struggle that we went through, or our parents had to go through, or our grandparents had to go through. It's like before the quarantine thing happened here, the joke actually was that you can't make the millennials go to war because they're just going to sit there and have a peace rally. So they've come in with their souls have come in with a totally different value system than what we had. Like our ancestors didn't want war. They went to war to survive because their politicians and everything put them through war. So a lot of their souls, when I look at them, they have this guilt and this anguish because their souls don't believe in killing other people. Okay, but the new generation has come through, standing on the shoulders of the old generations, able to make some changes to the laws and the way things are being seen. It's like the idea that they're lazy. That's a judgment.
It
What if
is.
it's not true?
Well,
What if it's not true?
to a certain degree, and we can talk about this on our next series, is the fact that like I said, when we speak about things, we generalize it does not pertain to every single one. But I
Hmm.
have met people who have been like that, feel entitled, and it might be cultural as well too. And that's something we can talk about. But Jesse, we gotta wrap this up, girl. We have so much to talk about. Very interesting topic to end it. Um, but in saying this, what would you like to say to our audience on this our premiere show right now?
If I was to wrap up today, I'd want them to become observers in their own life. Notice when you say, I always get the flu, or I'm a terrible mother, or I hate my thighs, or rich people are greedy, or it's not safe to eat, or it's not safe not to eat, or a typical one, the opposite sex cannot be trusted. All of these are rules that we have either heard from someone else or we have evidenced in our life and we've generalized onto the broad population. None of them are truths. And if we hear ourselves spouting things like that, we need to check in for a moment, notice it's a belief system, and hand on heart, hand on belly, connect with your soul and say, oh, what an interesting point of view. I just had that point of view. Is it mine? And the body will either sway forward or back or feel light or heavy or give you some sort of a response. And it's a rhetorical question. You don't need to know if it's yours because now you're observing it. It isn't yours. It was just a simple point of view. But you could also ask the body to let it go and
Lovely.
see if it does. Because
Lovely.
when we start observing our thoughts, we're not the thinker of our thoughts. We're the one listening. So really, where do all these biases and these prejudices and these interesting points of view come from? What if they're being fed to us off the satellite dishes or through the TV shows and the radio shows and everything we're listening to? Just always tune into your heart and your gut because those are two other brains that you have. The head brain is actually the smallest and the weakest of the brains. And just notice what you're receiving. And it's like changing the TV channel. Change the channel. Change the
Lovely.
channel.
I just have to say, what? Big is beautiful. That's all I got to say. Embrace it, love it. And the word I use a lot, you're going to hear me saying a lot here, is that everything is sexy. Everything has to be sexy. I'm not saying sex. I have said sexy. It's a different energy. Basically,
Yeah,
what it
it
is,
does.
your
It has
website
more
has to be,
sensuality
it
and
has
fun
to
with it.
be appealing to people. And on that note, you got to come back
Hmm.
for more. You got to stay tuned. But Your Body Talks with Jessy Morrison and Dianne Ojar. And I want to say thank you so much, Jessy. We have so much to talk about. This would not be the last. You'll be hearing from Jessy and Dianne. I can guarantee you that. Conversation will continue. So until next time on Your Body Talks with Jessy Morrison and Dianne Oja, I want to say thank you for joining us. And I hope you come back and bring a friend and let's talk to your body and learn how to talk to your body and learn how to interpret, but most of all, learn how to love it. This is
Beautiful.
Deanne and Jesse saying, see you next time on Your
See you
Body
next time.
Talks.